You're welcome to the Policy Council. My name is Opeyemi Agbaje. Today we'll talk about the phenomenon of online media, but we'll do more than just that. We'll talk about Nigeria, we'll talk about journalism, we'll talk about policy and governance, and why our politics is the way it is. I have a very experienced journalist, a young Nigerian, but who has done important things in the media. Enjoy the program. You're welcome back. It's still the Policy Council, and my guest is, well, a well-known public figure in the media, currently known as the CEO of The Cable, one of our latest online media. But for many years, he was known on the pages of This Day and ended up as editor both of the Saturday paper and of the daily paper as well. Simon Kolawole, you're welcome to the Policy Council.
Thank you very much.
I know that media people are often not on this side of the table. Is this something you get to do? Is this something are you interviewed often?
Yeah, well, it has. I think we're in a generation now where people think if you comment in the media, you're a columnist, you're an editor, you should also be able to come and contribute to national issues. And I think it's a global thing.
Yeah.
If people think you have special perspective, some passion about certain topics, it's becoming more
regular.
Yeah.
I encourage it a lot. I often try to bring media voices. Probably one of the biggest repositories of information about Nigeria into the Policy Council. So let me ask you, you spent about 12 years at This Day. Some people say This Day is Nigeria's most influential newspaper. There may be a debate about whether it's the widest circulating, but certainly has a lot of influence. Reflect on your days at This Day. What do you think that medium brought to Nigerian journalism?
Ironically, This Day will be 20 years old in January, and it's something we'll be reflecting on because we have had to look at the past, what This Day brought into the media. And the truth is, the entry of This Day into the Nigerian media landscape changed a lot of things. Mr. Nduka Obagbena raised the bar. There are no questions about that at all. When it started, the rule then was that you must own a printing press for you to do a daily newspaper. And he broke the rule. He didn't own a printing press. And then a lot of people became encouraged to set up newspaper houses without printing press. He started putting columnists on the back page of the newspaper. There's sadly a newspaper that is going
Everybody does that.
Everybody does that now. He was the one who started it. Even printing color on a consistent basis. There were newspapers that came that wanted to do color, and they were not successful, and they would just go back to their black and white. And he made it very consistent Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And before you knew it, the entire media industry. And then this issue of right of reply. Normally people say rejoinder, this and that. He called it right of reply.
Right.
And now it has become a standard in the industry for people to say right of reply. And in terms of engagement, engaging with leaders in politics and business, he's done that. He's taken This Day to an international level. When I was editor of This Day, there was hardly any major country I went to. If I introduced myself as coming from This Day, I was already known because we had done conferences with International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and back and forth. So it was a very wonderful experience for me. I was given the freedom to become whatever I wanted to be.
One of the things I found most remarkable, and that's a compliment to Nduka Obagbena, no matter what others you think about him, was the fact that after you resigned from This Day initially, you continued on the back page column for quite a long while after that. What was that about? How did you?
Well, the story of my exit from This Day is quite a simple one. I'd been editor in This Day in 1998, he made me features editor. I was a young man in my 20s. I was features editor for 2 years. 2002, he made me the Saturday editor. From there, I went to do my master's program.
Okay.
2007, he made me the editor of the daily newspaper. Very young man. And after 5 years, I just wanted to do something different. So when he now came up, when he now made certain changes, I felt that, this was even a very good opportunity. So it was a very cordial relationship. And for my column, it's something that I managed to build some following over the years. And a lot of people said, look, you have to continue to write. We want to continue to read. Even when we don't agree with you, we enjoy reading you. So I had to continue. Even though several times I've wanted to stop, and any day I don't write, the way people just come after me, it made me waste my money and all that. I said, well, maybe it's now beyond
It's now a public
It's now beyond
duty.
me, because normally I would have stopped writing some 2-3 years ago to focus on other areas of my life.
Let me take advice from you then. I mean, I write a newspaper column in Business Day, and I had concluded some time back that I'm stopping next there. What would you advise me to do?
I would say don't stop. Because when you feel passionate about certain things, you want to talk, you want to write. To be honest with you, several times I've told myself, I don't want to write again. I want to be free. I just want to live like I don't want to have a face in the public. Then something happens and I just find myself writing. So the moment you have that passion, it's not something you want to give up. There are people who have been writing since the 70s and they are still writing till today. Olatunji Dare, Bolabo Ogunsanwo, up till today they are still writing. And they have their audience, they have people who read them religiously. So our advice, you don't stop.
Okay, that's good advice from someone who should know. We will be right back.
Race here! Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, welcome my son.
We are giving free textbooks in our school today.
I thank God. Oh. I know with this Lagos State government free education, my son will end up being a lawyer or medical doctor. He can even become an educated automobile engineer. My son tell me, say, their school don't get beautiful building with a better chair and desk, new library, computer for everywhere, laboratory today, my people. All these things our children they enjoy today. Now our tax money do more. They pay my tax.
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back. It's the Policy Council, and I'm talking with influential journalist Simon Kolawole. Simon, you mentioned that you took a time out to do an MSc in governance and development at University of Success.
Yeah.
What did that add to your? I know the answer to this because I'm your reader as well, but I want to have your own views. Did that add anything to the quality of what you did as a journalist?
Yes, there were a lot of things I was writing about, but I did not even know that there have been extensive work done in those areas. I didn't know that there were theories driving some of those things I was writing about. So when I did my master's program, the diversity of the class it just changed my worldview. We had people from China, Japan, from all over the world. Now, my perspective of development also was strengthened because I always focus on human development. And what is this human development we're talking about? How do people have access to water, education? Because you can say the GDP is $500 billion. You can say the per capita income is $10,000. But how does that impact? What does that translate to in the life of the ordinary citizen? Then one major problem we have in third world countries is governance. Now, if you put up a tap in a marketplace, how do you run the tap in a way that it is not damaged? How do you run the tap in a way that people see this as a commonwealth and they protect it? Part of what is happening in Nigeria is that the oil money, we don't see it as a commonwealth. It's like, anytime you have an opportunity to be in government, it's like, let me take my own share and run. So we don't think for the community. We don't think for the society. So how do you create a sense of ownership of general public, the resources that belong to everybody? Now, if you just put a tap in a public place and people don't believe it, people don't own it. If the tap is running, the water is wasting, they just walk away because they don't have a stake in it. So
And
how do you make sure that
Nigeria
people...
is like that tap in a public place?
Exactly what is happening. We don't think, when you see a politician that was living in his father's house last year, is now local government chairman, he has gone to buy a plot of land in Osborne, and we don't question Rather, we want to see how can we be part
How
of
much
it.
can I collect from him?
You want to become his consultant. The youth organizations will come and present awards to him for his contribution to the community when he has not contributed anything. The pastor will organize all-night prayers without knowing that the road on which you drove to get to his house, that is bad. We don't ask those questions because the resources, we still don't own those. We don't think they belong to us. I'll give you an example. If you're in an association or where you live, you hold a meeting, you say, well, we want to put street lights on our streets. Everybody bring 200,000 naira. You contribute 200,000 naira. You are likely to ask questions that, we paid 200,000 naira. How come the street lights are not up? But if Governor Fashola comes and donates 20 million and says, do street lights, everybody wants to take their share. Because the money is on end. It's not your money. You don't feel it. It's
Your
money.
perspective, incidentally, I'm not sure what your position on this was, but your perspective supports the agitation of those who think the primary problem is an understanding, an agreement on how we are going to be bound as a nation, and who they believe that we need a national conference or something, or some renegotiation, so that we can have something we agree with. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I differ a bit on some of these issues. I've had people make arguments that in the First Republic we ran a federal system of government, but now we are running a unitary system of government. It's not exactly true. That's the way we are so romantic about the past. We don't even want to see developments that have happened over the years. I'll give you an example. In the First Republic, Western region, Eastern region, and Northern region, they were competing, right? And they produced 3 universities. How many universities do we have today with 36 states? We have over 40 universities. Will you rather have 3 regions having 3 universities? I don't think so. The notion that there's no competition anymore is not true. Lagos State is doing light rail. River State is doing light rail. Kaduna is doing rail. The notion that Agric has died is not true. Cross River is doing pineapple. In the north, they are competing over rice, they are competing over cotton, they are competing over cassava. Even Fashola has started farming in Lagos. They are doing poultry. So the notion that it was only the First Republic that there was competition is not exactly true. Do you know how many airports?
But in the First Republic, there were self-sustaining regions. Today, all they are doing is collecting donations from Abuja.
Yeah, but again, where I differ on that, how many states in Nigeria today can live without federal allocation? Take away the Niger Delta oil money. How many states can
But is
survive?
that not a function of how we have reconfigured the states?
It's
And
not.
Precisely because we have made them into administrative zones rather than self-sustaining
You probably didn't know.
federal entities.
You probably didn't. Maybe you've not. This has not come to your attention that in the Western region, the Ekiti people were complaining that the cocoa money was coming from the area. It was Ibadan. They went to use the money to develop.
I know that.
So the notion that the moment you crank up the country into some regions, then crisis, competition, tension is over. It doesn't work. The Awolowo that we celebrate today, it was not just about cocoa. It was about tax.
Yes.
Yeah, our parents, I don't know if you were old enough during the time it was a premier, they were blocking the road to collect tax. People were running to the villages because they didn't want to pay tax. So it was not just about the cocoa. In fact, increasingly in the world we live now, government has no business with cocoa. What the government should do is create the enabling environment, put the proper laws, put the infrastructure. It is the private sector that will develop the cocoa. If I can make $1 million from selling cocoa, what is the business of government? All I do is pay my tax. I have Kolawole cocoa processing industry. I pay 40% profit tax. I pay to the government. That's the business of the government. So we talk so much about the First Republic. We talk so much about the past, and we refuse to see that we are operating in a new reality. And if you grant autonomy today and say fiscal federalism, I can assure you that at least 25 states will die.
No, we'll take that discussion right after this time. Yeah. But my argument will be that is because of what powers you have allocated to the federal and what you have allocated to the state. If you reconfigure those powers to suit that federal system, perhaps the difference. But we'll continue that debate right after this time.
Who knows Abi better thing? Abi who no like better thing? All these fine things wey dey see so, Na money government dey take do am now. Abi, as in, it's like, I mean, excuse me, I dey pay my tax. I dey do wetin? I dey pay my tax. Say you don't pay your own tax. Have you pay your tax? I pay oh.
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back. I'm having this interesting debate with Simon Kolawole, CEO of the cable, reputable and influential Nigerian journalist. So, Simon, you were talking about this, the fact that if we granted state autonomy or regional autonomy, and I was given a counterpoint, what would be your reaction to my counterpoint?
Yes, the issue of power. I know of 4 things that states cannot handle. 1, armed forces and security. 2, they cannot have embassies. They are not allowed to operate embassies. 3, you talk about, for instance, in terms of revenue, the federal government take a very
Take 52%.
52% of the revenue.
Thereabout.
Yeah, and well, we just talk about the oil. Now, every state, everything that makes a Nigerian a proper human being, every state is empowered to do it. Every state is empowered to provide water. Every state is empowered to do education. Every state is empowered to make the environment clean, to provide transportation. Because when you are talking of a typical human being, what does it need to survive? Every state is empowered to do that.
Let me contest on each of those.
Yes.
So, for instance, education.
Yeah.
They say, okay, the curriculum is a federal responsibility.
Yeah.
And the regulation of universities.
Yes.
And the licensing.
Yes.
You take transportation, and there are practical cases with Lagos.
Yeah.
They say we control inland waterways, and you can't do ferry. So NIWA says, no, we are the ones in charge of inland waterways in Lagos.
But
so you want to do rail, you spend 3 years getting approval from Nigerian Railway Corporation. Those are so there are some structural, take each of those. NUC is the blockade, the obstacle for federal, for universities. NIWA is the obstacle for water transportation. Railway Corporation is the obstacle for rail transportation. And it's on and on. So you find that, yes, in theory, you can do most things, or you can do many things. But we have built structures that ensure a veto and an administrative blockade that you face. So, and then, of course, even if you could, the argument would be, what if you don't have the revenue? Once somebody has taken 52% of the revenue and divided the remaining 40-something amongst 36 people, that power that you have in theory is notional to the extent that you can't create the revenue sources.
Okay, I will take the issues one by one. The first one is about regulation. There are regulations. So how come Lagos State is doing light rail?
Go and talk to the people in Lamata and they will tell you. Anyway, let me not.
Because I'm seeing it being constructed.
Yes.
I know that the train has been paid for. It's coming from Canada.
Perhaps it could have happened 2 years earlier.
I agree that there are bottlenecks. Some of them political decisions. When Tinubu wanted to do independent power in 1999, that was a political issue because of the federal government. But eventually he did it. Many states are doing independent power projects today. I just told you about rivers. They are doing light rail. Now, the issue of regulation is a global thing. You have to have central regulation. You cannot have regulation for water in Lagos different from regulation for water in Cross River because you are going to run into a problem. It's just like your driving license. You can only use it in Lagos. If you are going to Ibadan, you need a different driving license. It doesn't work. So it's just that is the sense in a central system that we have that. Now, you're talking about money. Sokoto State can be the richest state in Nigeria. Because we are so focused on this thing we go to collect in Abuja every month, the same way you are waiting for your salary. That is what has damaged us. And it has nothing to do with restructuring or no restructuring. When Tinubu became governor of Lagos State was generating roughly 180 million per month without anything being changed. Revenue allocation was not changed. Nothing was changed. He just looked at the loss. Today, how much? Because he's discussing billions. At a stage, they were discussing about 180 billion or so that they were making without any lobbying change, without fiscal federalism, without regional autonomy. There are so many things that the system allows us to do.
So clearly, and I agree with you, many of these people are lazy, perhaps.
Because we are going to Abuja every month. There is a guaranteed allocation every month.
But let me also, I'm enjoying this debate. Sokoto State might tell you that yes, we could be the richest state if we could exploit our solid minerals resources. But guess what? It's an exclusive legislative resource. Solid minerals.
And we are saying without solid minerals, without petroleum, you can become... What is Dubai? Dubai is trade and tourism. Simple. Dubai is not oil, it's not solid minerals. Japan is human brain. If you
Israel
go to a lot of... Look at
human
Israel.
innovation.
We find excuses
Singapore
when
is-
people... See, the politicians, they found a perfect way of... I don't know, they deceive us so much with the way they talk. I'm not saying those are not issues. We have issues. I'm not going to deceive myself and say we don't have issues about ethnic and political structure. We have those issues. But I'm saying, in
The big
spite,
gap issue.
in Anambra State now, Innocence is assembling cars. Nobody wanted to buy the cars because, made in Nigeria. I don't want to have an accident. The former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, said, okay, all local governments buy these cars. The moment the man has a guaranteed market, he's going to raise the game. Because he has a guaranteed market where he knows that if he manufactures this car, people are going to buy. If you even look at Nollywood, the quality of movie making is going up. At the time, it was watery. But now you want to be different. You have to invest more and get a better quality. And they are screening them now all over the world. I was in the UK recently, and some Nigerian movies were being listed at the cinemas. So we have boxed ourselves into a corner thinking that our problem lies in Abuja.
So the problem is mental instead.
We have a mental problem. Aba can become the manufacturing of technology in Africa. And the revenue goes, where does the government make the money? Profit from profit tax, income tax. And of course, the councils will also make their own money.
Okay, let's take our final time out and we'll talk about the cable, the online media industry and journalism as a whole. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. It's my final segment with Simon Kolawole of The Cable, and now we'll talk about The Cable.
Yeah.
So, of course, if you had asked me when we had you left this day, I would have said you were coming out with a newspaper, a print media. So why did you choose online? Does that mean you imply that you think the print medium is dying or will die?
Well, the newspaper will never die. When radio came out and they were on air, people say, oh, this is the end of the newspaper. The newspaper is dead. But the reports of newspapers there were grossly exaggerated. We still have them today.
And
but
in TV and radio too.
TV, radio, we see even internet. Now you are just lying on your bed. You don't need to put on radio or TV. With your mobile phone, you read all the stories. Yeah, for someone who worked in the print media all my life, I always thought that one day I will end up setting up a newspaper that will have that will be printed. But I now did an analysis looking at the history of Nigeria. When I was growing up, I'm still growing up, by the way, when I was much younger, I knew that my uncle used to bring home about 12 newspapers in a day. 12, 15 newspapers from all over the country. Ambassador, Chronicle, Standards, Herald. But I go to see my uncle today, he doesn't buy one. Maybe once in a week, maybe on Sunday, just buys one newspaper. So if in the 70s, when our population was 60 million, 70 million, Daily Times was printing 600,000 copies in a day. Daily Times alone. 2014, our population is 170 million, and no newspaper, not one, all Nigerian newspapers put together don't have that kind of figures. Then something is happening. People, these days we deal with breaking news. News has become obsolete in the sense that something happens and you are reading it immediately. I'm not going to wait till the following day. I mean, this thing was so illustrated to me. We were having this social media week in Lagos. And while we were there, Sanusi was removed as governor of was suspended as governor of Central Bank. And we saw it. I was monitoring it on Twitter. I was reading it online. And then, while we were still at it, an acting governor was appointed. It became the latest news. A few minutes later, Godwin Emefiele's name was sent to the Senate.
CBN.
As his
to the Senate.
Then the following day, newspapers will be reporting Sanusi removed. I already read that 24 hours ago. So the world has changed. Something happened to me when Justin Bieber was arrested for some offense in the US. I know teenagers like him a lot. So my daughter just came back from school around 4 p.m. So I went to open the door for her, and I told her, Bieber has been arrested. And she was like, I know. It's like, she couldn't believe that I would be telling her something that happened 2 hours ago. You expect me to wait till 2 hours later to say, no. She just will say, I know. Because she has seen it either on Instagram or something like that. So the world has changed. But having said that, I have enormous respect for newspapers, and I don't think the newspaper will die. Newsweek magazine recently went out of circulation and went fully online, but they're back. They're back with the print edition. But there are still people who, while eating their food or drinking their coffee, they still want to be flipping through newspapers. So, but why did I choose to go online? When I look at the resources that will be needed to do a physical newspaper and what is going to be needed to do an online newspaper, and I wanted to do a newspaper that is independent of funding from anywhere, no sugar daddy, no nothing, so that we can maintain our independence. I just felt that this is what my capability can deal with, and for me, it's been a wonderful, very tasking experience, but it's been a wonderful experience.
And obviously, I read the cable online, and I know millions of other Nigerians who do. So it hasn't been bad so far.
Thank you very much for that.
Well, a Nigerian that many of us are proud of, Simon Kolawole. Thank you for coming on the Policy Council.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Well, that was a very interesting discussion. Simon Kolawole argues that the print media will not die, and I agree with him. But online will become more pervasive, and that's a trend that no one can reverse. So perhaps the cable is on to a good thing. Beyond that, he argues that in spite of current constraints, our leaders can do much more than they're doing. They can, within the context of current laws, they can be creative, they can be innovative, and they can perform the function of government, which is to improve the welfare of its people, whether the laws are changed or they are not. And I agree with him also. So this is a challenge to our leaders: explore the opportunities within the policy gap and change the lives of people. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.